That's really amazing. I'm sure your father's very, very proud of you. So sorry for your loss. And, glioblastoma is just a really, really tough one. Do you believe that any of the therapies that you used with him, including a ketogenic diet, do you think they prolonged his life or improved the quality of his life? I know it's speculation. I'm just curious.
Yeah, it's speculation, but we also saw that so for a long time his scans were clear when he was doing the ketogenic diet. And that's really encouraging. There's so much scan anxiety when you go in to see, if anything's grown. And then he did go on to Avastin and had some digestive issues, at which time he was advised to follow the brat diet, which has since been totally debunked. And then once he went back on that rice applesauce diet, he his tumor did reappear pretty quickly after that. So
Well,
we do have scans to show that. And as far as quality of life goes, he made a lot of changes, and he said, I feel better now than before I got cancer. He was exercising, he was sleeping, he quit drinking, he quit going to McDonald's drive-through, some of that low-hanging fruit stuff that he felt good, and he was able to have good quality of life. And then that's what we're really going for. We want people to feel good while they're going through these standard of care treatments instead of throwing up in the bathroom. So it was encouraging. And the other thing that happened, coming from me, my family didn't really accept the ketogenic diet, but he was able to connect with a neuro-oncologist from Mass General, and he was like, "Hey, have you ever heard of the ketogenic diet?" And this incredible oncologist, who's one of our advisory board members now, said, "Oh yeah, I've heard of it, and you can have your life in one hand or a cookie in the other." And then everyone was like, "The ketogenic diet's the greatest idea ever." I'm like, "Sure, okay, if a male medical doctor says it, cool, then everyone's on board." So that was fine, and it was embraced, and I was glad to have that. That's what it was going to take to get it, my family on board. And I don't really care who said it, but he dove right in, and that was great. So I think that did make a big difference. And
wow.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
great.
Thanks for sharing that. What the diet you mentioned, the brat diet?
Brat, bananas, rice, applesauce, and toast. They've been recommending it for years for pediatric diarrhea and other people who get just digestive upset. And it's actually it's no longer recommended. And it's one of the dietary theory. I wish that oncologists and pediatricians and other providers would stay up on some of this, because it's nutrient depleted and it really doesn't help with the diarrhea. But unfortunately, people who went through, most doctors don't get any nutrition education, but some things we've heard of, like, okay, maybe this dietary therapy will work, and unfortunately it backfires. Like we were talking about earlier, things change pretty rapidly, so we have to be careful. I sort of joke, and I probably shouldn't say this, but everyone gets so mad at nutrition therapists to say, "Hey, you can't say this and you can't say that, and you have to be really careful about what you say." But then you got doctors giving information. It's malpractice. It would be malpractice if you don't know what you're talking about. You shouldn't be giving dietary advice. And I just think that it's worth just saying, "Hey, I don't know, maybe you should connect with an oncology nutrition consultant, or someone who's savvy in some of these things." So yeah, the brat diet is one of the ones that we cover being debunked a while ago. And
Never heard of that. Never heard
applesauce.
of that.
Oh, the brat diet. Yeah, it's been around for quite some time. Yeah,
Wow. I mean, obviously you could only do that temporarily because you would become very malnourished and very insulin resistant pretty quick.
exactly. Yeah.
Wow. Very interesting. Yeah, I've never heard of that. Okay, so you and I both, have listened to a recent podcast. It's a very popular podcast. Most people would know it. The episode is all about one specific topic of one particular kind of cancer. And the episode went through all the different treatments, what the cancer is, how it mutates, whatever. They acknowledged pretty early on in that episode that there was a study done, a cohort of Japanese people. They were in Japan and didn't get a lot of cancer. They moved to America and got a lot of cancer. It was observational more than likely, but it was telling the story. And they said, like, this is obviously environmental. They proceeded to do this entire episode that's 2 hours long that doesn't say anything really that much about the environment. And it's so frustrating because it was all about which radiation is best, which chemotherapy is best, what medications are better. And they're talking about progress. Like, we are progressing in certain particular types of cancer and we're getting better survival rates. I just don't understand when they're talking about like how to like mop up extra cancer cells that might be rogue in the body. Why are people not talking about metabolic approaches to cancer that could at the very least be extremely helpful?
Well, that's the $1 million question. And I think it does come down to millions of dollars because, there's just not a lot of money in dietary therapies and, eating organic food and those kind of things. So unfortunately, it does get left out of the conversation when there's just so many other low hanging fruit that we can focus on. I mean, it was the World Cancer Research Fund estimated in 2019 that almost half of all cancers can be prevented by lifestyle and dietary measures alone, and yet they get completely left off the table. So estimates are that 1 in 3 people will ask their doctor, hey, or their oncologist, like when they just get diagnosed, hey, what about nutrition? And the most common answer is, it doesn't matter what you eat, just don't lose weight. And that has to change. So we can definitely do better than that. We know that it's been identified the dietary factors that increase cancer risk include things like consumption of excess calories and obesity. And, the numbers now are absolutely startling. Something like 85% of Americans are metabolically inflexible. We're overweight. People are overweight. They're obese. I mean, it's one of those things that, we could simply say, one of the first things we have our students do as an exercise is, hey, just track your diet for 3 days. I think this is such a powerful exercise because so many people will say, oh, I thought I was eating so healthy, and then I got diagnosed. But until you call a little awareness to it, most people have no idea how many calories, how much sugar they're eating on a daily basis. So, just as a starting point, we talked earlier about just really wanting to focus on solutions. What can people do now? Where can you start today? I have spent so many years with the people coming in the door going, I have stage 4 cancer. It's metastasized, and my doctor basically sent me out to pasture, and now I'm here to see you. And it's like, we're late. We're late. We need to catch these folks upstream before this process begins to happen. And so, just being aware of what's going on, is that self-awareness is huge. And just, we're overeating. We're eating too much sugar. We're not eating enough fiber. There's a whole host of different dietary factors that can contribute to risk.
Yeah, I don't know if they're as popular in Maine as they are around here, but soda shops around here are super popular. So giant sodas with added whatever flavorings you can get, syrups and different things added to them. And then very popular also are big old cookies. And I saw one of these cookies, and they're massive. Yeah. And you can Google it. They're the most popular. Like, if you look at the times that they're open, it shows you when it's most popular. And the peak popularity is like 3 p.m. and like 8 p.m., presumably like 2 or 3 hours after somebody had had a lunch. And they're probably starving because they probably ate the wrong things, didn't get enough protein. They're very hungry at those times. But anyway, I see a package for one of these cookies, and it goes through all the ingredients and the nutrition facts and everything. And it was like 35, 40 grams of sugar, but the serving size was a quarter of the cookie. Who eats a quarter of a cookie?
Yeah.
Imagine that.
It's well, and I said this when we were talking offline, is, we just had Halloween, and that I've been on a personal crusade about Halloween for many years. So it is a legal form of drug dealing. So I heard that a local fire station was handing out king size servings of candy to kids, king size, and recommending that they take more than one. I mean, what came home after an hour of going to drug dealers' house? And I have to put it this way because that's what it is, because the studies have shown that sugar is more appealing than cocaine in rodent models. So when we have our kids going around getting cocaine dropped in a basket, for free. It's horrifying. It should be absolutely illegal. And then we get these kids they're hooked on drugs. They're hooked on drugs because sugar is a drug, and we start them young, and then it keeps going from there. And the serving sizes are huge. I mean, that's more sugar than our ancestors would have consumed in a whole year. And
Oh,
they're
easily.
one night.